I'm going to run you through how to use the Palazzo de Wealth. So just in case it doesn't come up properly on your screen, I've got the big one here, so you can pause at any time and take a copy of that. So that's it there. You can look at your copy that you've been emailed as well. So the Palazzo is based around our fundamentals at the bottom. So we've got 90-day reserves and our cornerstones of what we do. So personal reserve and investment reserve when you get to that point. And then you've got your finance and banking and structures, wills and estates, superannuation, that sort of thing. Look, that's not so you can write notes in there. You can if you want. It's really just to remind you, and there's some blank stones as well where you can put other things in there that you want to remind yourself about. That's all your fundamentals. You don't want to do anything with property investment until you have your fundamentals sorted down the bottom. And that's why they're the stones at the bottom. The next section here is the pillars. And the pillars are discounted buying, positive cash flow, asset and land banking, and development. And those pillars were chosen for specific reasons. So discounted buying when the market's down and it's the right time to buy, always buy at a discount. Positive cash flow, we can never have too much positive cash flow, so you need that. That's got to be in there, and people definitely don't have enough positive cash flow. Asset and land banking, that's taking opportunities and grabbing them at the right time and for a future planned date, and perhaps you do or do not realise that. And development, well, that's anything from realising some of those opportunities, adding a granny flat, doing an extension, a renovation, right up to a large land subdivision or townhouse development, whatever. So that's very, very broad, but that is a very active pillar strategy there. On top of that, we've got our metrics. So the metrics are, how do we know what to do and where to do it? So if we want to do one or more of these strategies here, how do we know where's a good spot to buy a discounted property? How do we know where's a good spot to do a development? You know, what's that? And that's those measuring tools. And that's what I want to talk to you about now. So the first measuring tool that we go off sits over here in terms of the overall cycle. So it's a macroeconomic cycle. And this is Philip J. Anderson's property clock. So that's that one there. And you would have a copy of that emailed to you as well. Look him up at Cycles, Trends and Forecasts, or Business Cycles. Go and Google Philip Anderson. So that's his property clock there. Now it's an analog basis and it's a 24-hour clock. I'm not going to go too far through how to do that. We'll do another video on how to read Phil's clock, right? But essentially, this is obviously a big version. It sits there in the cycle. So that's where we're at in the overall economic cycle of what's going on. Okay. Then we need to know the local market. What's going on in the local market at the time? So the local market is over here on the right. Now, in Australia, we've got some great resources for that. And I suggest you subscribe to Herod Todd White's monthly email that comes out. And I've just printed out something out from that for this month here. And so they do their own version of a property clock of where certain towns and cities are in Australia and where they are in relation to others around the property cycle. So you've got peak of the market, rising market, bottom market, declining market as we go around. Okay, so you'll have a copy of that emailed to you for this month, and of course you can get your own copy as the months go forward. So let's see how this works. So we've got something here at peak of the market. We've got Bathurst and Canberra and Dubbo and that at the moment. So that's suggesting top of the market. Declining market, a few months ago we had Sydney over there starting to decline. Now it's definitely down, more further down around, approaching the bottom of the market. And so this is their interpretation of hundreds and hundreds of pieces of data that they do for their valuation company. It's a really, really, really handy tool. The thing is, that tells you where certain suburbs and towns are in their own mini cycle or their local market cycle, but it doesn't tell you what to do. And so that's where we developed our compass. So just before we go on, that one fits over there, right? So we've got Phil's clock over here in this overall cycle. We've got the local market cycle there. Okay, so we developed our compass. This is our Xenium action compass, and you will have a copy of that emailed to you as well. And that's it there. And you're probably wondering, how the heck do you read this? Okay, so Zach, as we call it, sits in the center there, right? because that directs everything that we want to do. So we know where the overall market's going and what's going on, okay? We want to know what our local market's doing, right? So we get some local data. And then we say, okay, let's look at, Newcastle, for example. Herodtype White's got that as a declining market at the moment, so we call that 3 o'clock. And let's look at, say, something like Brisbane. It's said it's at the bottom of the market at the moment, okay? So bottom of the market is not a bad spot to be. Right, so how do we do that? So we take this and we transpose the HTW data points onto the Xenium action compass. So if we go Newcastle's at 3 o'clock, it's over there, it's falling market. Yep, falling market, that's what they both agree on. But what should we be doing? Well, at the moment, it's still in the discounted buying section. So we're looking at heavily discounted property in those areas. And on the inner rings here, we're looking at possibly getting in and grabbing something. It's getting to the point where we'd look at whether we're going to do something else in that area. But at the moment, that's how that looks. So we go down to Brisbane. We go, okay, we're down here. There's an issue there. Now, this is houses, it should be noted. Now, Brisbane has an oversupply of units, okay? And there could be an undersupply of houses, not sure. But there's a reason why Brisbane's at the bottom of the market on the HTW clock. So if that is the case, then what are we looking for in Brisbane? We're looking for positive cash flow. Okay, so we should be looking for things there to go in and grab as for some positive cash flow, and also potentially to land bank in preparation for when the market moves and we can go and do development. So speaking of development, we've got some areas over here in start of recovery, right? So we've got Cairns, Gladstone, Mackay, Port Hedland, Townsville, Whitsundays. Now some of those areas, of course, we wouldn't touch. Perhaps some we would. Let's look at Mackay. Mackay's in start of recovery. Well, over here, so it's not a bad time to get in, do a small project. It could be a house and land package or a duplex, or I'm not saying we do a development in Mackay, but something that we can get in and out in a relatively quick time frame. That's how that works, and that's where it is. So we wouldn't really go and look for buying a discount in Mackay at the moment because it's already been around this section of the clock. We've already missed our opportunities for discounted buying. Now we want to make some money on the upside. And that's how we measure and decide what we're going to do. So in each of these strategies, depending on what suburb we're working in, we run our 3 clocks. Right? We've got Phil's master clock, the HTW clock, and of course our compass. And using those 3 measuring tools then lets us decide well what we're going to put into our portfolio and what we're going to do. Alright, so that's a rundown of how to use our Palazzo de Wealth. Hope you found that interesting. If you've got any questions, hit us up in the comments below. And also put the link in the comments for joining Xenium if you haven't already and someone showed you this video.